final panelist who will take us on a deep dive into banking on cloud and cybersecurity. We have with us Mr. Danny Smulders. He is the Regional Manager, Asia Pacific, Japan, and China at SD1 Cisco. We've also got with us Mr. Sean Hong. He's the Regional Director, Strategic Alliance, Cloud Fortinet Incorporated. And Ms. Jacine Chuateng. She's the Vice President and CRM Head at PLDT Enterprise. All right, let's kick off with Danny here. We have the first question from the floor. It is for you. It is becoming important for customers to have a single dashboard to manage their WAN assets, to simplify their cloud connectivity, have advanced analytics capability for their underlay, as well as SaaS or SaaS applications. What is Cisco doing today on this front?
Well, we're doing a number of things, but let's peel back the onion a little bit. I'd say 10 years ago, if we were talking about banking, nobody would tell you that that's a very dynamic industry. Now, you fast forward to today and you listen to some of the panelists, that has completely changed, right? And the complexity, the agility that is now expected from banks in terms of moving from where they are to whatever is the next generation for themselves, what that brings is a lot of complexity underlying on it. But what hasn't changed is that everything is still connected in one way, shape, or form. And so what we need to make sure as Cisco is to make sure that the bank operating this business doesn't have to suffer from this complexity. So we're bringing back together a number of these elements, and Ian already mentioned it, right? The platform. We're bringing all of these things into a single dashboard, a single pane of glass, if you will, where you can manage that complexity, where you can manage wherever you are in that cloud journey. You can bring on your applications, whether they're in data center or software as a service. It is really irrelevant, right? It just comes into that single pane of glass. There's a couple of examples that I can come up with, and a very straightforward one would be what we're doing with a bank in the Philippines is, it's your Microsoft 365 rollout. Seems pretty straightforward enough, but when you think about it, you're basically now creating the requirement to have access to public cloud from branches. That's something that just didn't exist before. So that would be one example. Okay. Another one that we're working on with a bank in Singapore is actually pushing live content to ATMs. So again, that's data that's residing in the public cloud, and generating that experience seamlessly, making that simple for the bank to operate, again, is an important one. And third one, I'd say the most relevant one, given the pandemic, and somebody already alluded in another panel discussion, is we still appreciate real time. Now, there's still a number of countries that are at different stages of lockdown where that obviously isn't possible. So we were working on a virtual branch with one of the banks, where rather than having banking on your phone or on a laptop, you do have that, but augmented with a live agent that is helping you, is teleconsulting you, where you can ask questions. Again, bringing that together, simplifying that into a single dashboard. That's the kind of things we do.
I think we did have a very interesting panel as well yesterday on augmented reality, and that is exactly what you're saying. The use cases are already here. Thank you for those examples. This next question goes to Sean of Fortinet. What are some of the typical challenges for financial institutions when it comes to making security a business enabler for cloud adoption?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Thanks for the questions, right? When it comes to business enabler, we saw that many financial institutions are embracing the cloud, particularly the AI engines that they can understand the customer better. For instance, in Hong Kong, we probably worked with one of the first batch of virtual banks to launch the service fully in cloud just within 9 months. It's fully compliant with the Hong Kong MA strict security requirements. That's the speed we're talking about, because these new emerging banks, they're competing based on the speed and understanding the customer. From the challenges side, what we see is like the most we talk about is the understanding of the security for the public cloud services. Because in the cloud era, security and compliance is a shared responsibility model between the cloud providers and the customers. So the banks assumes the responsibility and the management of their workload in the cloud. Given the cloud has brought a new set of orchestration tools, new DevOps tools they need to manage, many banks are having challenges in coping with such a dynamic environment and also this evolving environment. On the other hand, they also need a consistent visibility and possible across all this heterogeneous environment, because this environment is not, they need to communicating with the light workloads and also communicating with the. Meanwhile, we also see these application workloads are moving back and forth towards the back, towards the edge, as Danny mentioned earlier about the like live streaming ATMs. So all these will require a consistent visibility and security posture enforcement at all layers. Thanks.
Thank you for that answer, Sean. This one is for Jessin. It seems like PLDT not only partnered with global partners to integrate their solution to your portfolio, but PLDT has also built platforms. Why is this so?
Yes, Danny, that's right. The reason why we built platforms is primarily because our DNA is actually still a service company.
Okay.
And like many other service companies, our intent is to build the necessary infrastructure or systems that many of our customers need to remove the complexity of building and managing the infrastructure away from our customers and making it easier for our customers to access technology by simply subscribing to a service, to a managed service actually.
Okay.
The platforms that we have built addresses various needs actually. We have built platforms for customer engagement, for cybersecurity, for disaster recovery, for network, for systems, for data centers, for cloud, and of course, for business applications. Roundtable discussions with CTOs point us to these future initiatives. These are actually what we will be expecting from the local BFSI sector. Renewed focus on core system modernization to improve agility, time to market, and realize cost reduction. Rich remote advisory services and repurposing of ATM machines, and more fluid AI-enhanced onboarding and fraud prevention. Of course, there's still the acceleration of multi-cloud migration to accommodate increased work from home and app usage. There is also heightened focus on personalization. And last but not the least, of course, is the use of 5G and early stage IoT deployments. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Jessin. I think that was very, very specific answer to the question with the platforms that you just described. Let's go back to Danny here. A question from the floor for you. The cloud is becoming the new data center, pushing customers to use more and more internet as a WAN transport. This might be a challenge for the customers to have the right visibility on how the applications are performing, crossing different ISPs. How can Cisco help you with this specific challenge?
So as mentioned in the previous question, right, we really see this sprawl of data. It's going everywhere. And that obviously is a very big shift from how banks traditionally used to operate, right? All of their data used to be in their own data center, and they control their own connectivity to that data center. So it's all very much under control, relatively easy and straightforward. Now, we always say the cloud, right? And the cloud is basically you using somebody else's computer. And that computer could be anywhere in the world, right? It's not necessarily within country. And so what that creates is really a reliance on using assets or pieces of network that are no longer under control of the bank. And obviously, once you get to that point, that does generate some questions, right? And the first question that comes to mind all of the time is, how will the experience be of my customer if I move things into the cloud? And you cannot measure an experience if you don't know where that data is going and where that data is transversing. So in that regard, our recent acquisition of 1000 Eyes really brings and augments that visibility across assets that are out of your control, that are across public ISPs, that are within multi-cloud or public cloud, and provide that insight back to the bank.
Okay.
Now, an example that we have here is we're working with a bank in Myanmar that is basically moving their core banking platform into AWS. Now, that's a very dramatic shift, and I would say very forward thinking. But obviously, once you move your core banking platform into the cloud, anything you do is dependent on that cloud, the performance of that cloud, and the performance of the connectivity between your customers and that cloud. And so, again, here's 1000 Eyes has been absolutely key, bringing not only visibility, but making sure that we can benchmark what good user experience looks like, and we probe that quality real time, because you cannot wait for that quality or that experience to deteriorate, because at that point it's already too late. Customers are already complaining. So the ability for us to test that real time continuously is a big differentiator.
Excellent. And I think real time has been a recurring theme here, right? We weren't quite there yet, but as you mentioned, it's the number one thing that the customers are asking for. This for Sean Hong, how can Fortinet help financial institutions protect customer data? Danny was mentioning specifically that protecting the things that are in the cloud. How can you help the financial institutions protect customer data and enhance security posture?
Yeah. So Fortinet believe to overcome those challenges, it's best to have a broad and integrated and also automated security platforms, regardless where the workload is deployed. So Fortinet Security Fabric is to provide out the banks or financial institutions a fabric approach in securing the digital transformation journey. Instead of 50 different point products, Fortinet offers a fabric that includes all the core elements of enterprise class securities. So our cloud security covers the three key important pillars of the cloud. That includes the platforms, networks, and applications. It's designed to secure any applications on any cloud, providing a multi-layered yet integrated security solution that provides a seamless security posture and enforcement for their workloads. Such automatic fabric will provide a seamless security that follows the application and data on any cloud environment. It also provides a consistent and centralized policy and deep visibility into the data center, virtual private cloud, or even into the Kubernetes clusters and service APIs. Last but not least, it is to enable automation through machine learning or deep learning technologies that apply to all these layers. So fabric or platform approach is the way to go.
There you have it, fabric or platform approach. I think that's what you also mentioned earlier on, in a simplified approach to all of that. And finally, just one last question for Ms. Jessin. The platforms are exactly what we need to address our current pain point, as was previously mentioned, but we do not have the resources to manage it. Can you help us? So maybe they have a platform but no resources. What can you do?
Of course, we would definitely want to help our customers on this, right? So not only have we actually built the platforms, we have also encapsulated these internal or external platforms with fully managed services, which actually includes analysis and reporting, monitoring, and of course, proactive support. As you said, the buzzword these days really is real time, and on top of that also is proactive support. And these services allow our customers to address important business issues like talent and skills augmentation, cost reduction, and resources availability. With online contactless payment and digital technology as the top emerging trend, much work really needs to be done in the BFSI sector. Our goal is to bring our customers closer to their customers, keeping in mind the market our customers serve and help them optimize their resources.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Jessin, and thank you to all of our panelists, of course, for your answers to these very, very interesting questions. That was, of course, Mr. Danny Smolders of Cisco, Mr. Sean Hong of Fortinet, and Ms. Jessin Chuateng of PLDT Enterprise. And thank you, delegates, for all of your questions.